Happy Monday. Thank you for joining us for this week's Unlocking the Magic of Leadership. This week, we are continuing our 7-week series. We are into week 2, the myths of leadership. And the second myth that we're going to be talking about is the myth that leaders need to have all of the answers. Now, when I first started my journey into leadership, I know this was one that was really big for me because my armor, what I put on when I get nervous or unsure, is my ability to have answers. And so shifting from kind of a leader amongst my peers into a titled leadership position, I really didn't want to mess things up. Anytime somebody came and they would ask me for a question, before they could even finish the question, normally I was giving them the answer. And I was terrified of what was going to happen the day that somebody asked me a question that I didn't know the answer to. And that day came, and one of my employees asked me a question, and I looked at him and said, that's a really good question. What do you think we should do? And I saw the employee puff up with pride, a phenomenal answer that I would never have come up with. In that moment, completely accidentally, but in that moment, I realized that this idea, this myth that leaders have to know everything is just that. It's a myth, and it's causing more harm than good. So dive into it with me this week as we're looking at the manage yourself first key. So the very first key in the magic system, manage yourself first, and uncovering why leaders don't have to have the answer to everything. Now, when we're thinking through this, we need to have all of the answers. We're missing so many opportunities. And that first opportunity is the opportunity that was highlighted in the story that was just shared. When we know everything, we take away the opportunity for those that are on our teams, whether our peers or our employees, to be able to step in and show what they know as well. And one thing that I quickly learned was that my employees that were on the front line were 100 times better at solving frontline problems than I was. I was good at looking 5, 10, 15 years down the road, coming up with strategy, figuring out what that looked like, but they could solve the immediate problems. And so as you're moving through this, if somebody comes up and asks you, what do you think? And you don't have an answer, put it back on them. If you've been in any of my trainings, you've heard me do this when generally during an activity, somebody will come up and say,
Summer, can we do this?
What would you do if I wasn't here? It puts it back on them and lets them come up with a solution, which most of the time they have anyways. They're just wanting validation for the solution. Now, the second reason why it's important to not always have the answer is because we want to teach our employees that they can do these things without us. Later on in my leadership journey, when I was thinking about going from a frontline manager into more middle-level leadership, I overheard somebody making the comment that you'll know you've done it well when as a leader, your team no longer needs you.
I was like, what? What does it mean? What happens if my team no longer needs me?
But you know what happened? We got to that point where my team was not blowing up my phone on my days off. They were not reaching out asking questions that they already knew the answer to. They were able to do it without me. And I was able to get time back so that I could work at the level that I needed to work at. And sure enough, when my team got to that point where they really didn't need me anymore, it was time for a promotion. And so as you're thinking through this, when we stop answering all of the questions ourselves and we allow our teams, give them the opportunity to show their knowledge and their skill set and make these decisions on their own, it opens up more time for you as the leader. And I don't know, hand up if you could use more time. I put my feet up here too, but that just, anyways. So the final reason why it's important that we don't always have the answer is simply for our mental health. When we are looking at trying to always have the answer, that puts so much pressure on us as leaders. We're trying to live into this ideal that we're perfect. Everybody knows that we're not perfect, including us. So we can let go of that ideal, so we can open up some of that mental energy and not be worried about what happens when they ask a question that I don't know the answer to, because they will. Instead, we're already in that frame of mind to collaboratively solve the solution together. That's it for this week. Myth number 2, we are busting that myth. Leaders need to have all of the answers. We know that that is no longer true. Leaders do not need to have all of the answer, and holding on to this outdated belief does damage to your team as well as take away opportunities for you as the leader. So no more, no más. We do not need to have all of the answers. All right, my magic makers, have an absolutely amazing week, and I can't wait to join you next week. Don't forget, as always, you got this.